Once upon a time when the world was still young, all creatures lived in harmony under the golden light of the sun. Among these creatures was the owl, a bird unlike any other. She was not the silent, mysterious creature that watches over the night as we know her today. No, in those days, the owl was one of the most talkative birds in the entire animal kingdom. Her feathers were bright, her eyes shone with curiosity, and her voice never ceased to chatter. She flitted from tree to tree, from nest to nest, always eager to share the latest news and secrets she had overheard. The animals of the land had grown used to the owl's endless stories. Some found her amusing, while others grew tired of her constant prattling. She spoke of the lion's struggles to maintain his pride, the elephant's complaints about his heavy tusks, and the tortoise's slow but steady journeys. However, there was one problem. Owl was not always truthful. She loved to exaggerate, twisting small truths into grand tales, and adding her own flair to make the stories more exciting. The more dramatic her stories became, the more attention she received, and the more she thrived on the admiration of others. One bright morning, as the sun bathed the land in its warm glow, the animals gathered by the great baobab tree for their daily activities. The owl perched on a high branch, watching with keen eyes. She had a secret to share, a story so scandalous that she could hardly contain herself. She ruffled her feathers excitedly, waiting for the right moment to speak. "Have you all heard?" Owl began, her voice carrying across the clearing. The animals paused in their tasks, their ears twitching with curiosity. "The sun, the great and mighty sun, is not as powerful as we all think." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The sun had always been revered as the giver of life, the eternal watcher of the skies. To speak against the sun was unthinkable. The rabbit's nose twitched nervously, the antelope stamped his hoof, and even the mighty lion raised an eyebrow in surprise. The owl continued, lowering her voice as if she were revealing a great secret. "I have it on good authority that the sun is growing weak. Soon he will no longer shine as brightly. He will fade, and darkness will take over the land." The animals murmured among themselves, uncertainty creeping into their hearts. If the sun grew weak, what would happen to them? Would the rivers dry up? Would the plants wither? Fear began to spread like wildfire. The chameleon, ever wise and cautious, narrowed his eyes at the owl. "And where did you hear such a thing, owl?" he asked. The owl fluffed her feathers, feigning importance. "Oh, I have my ways. A whisper here, a secret there. Trust me, I know things." But the sun, high above, had heard every word. He had always watched over the creatures of the land, giving them warmth, light, and life. He had never asked for anything in return, only respect. But now he found himself the subject of cruel gossip, his power questioned, his very existence doubted. The sun burned hotter with anger, his golden rays flashing with fury. As the day went on, the animals remained troubled. Some doubted the owl's words, but others feared she might be right. And the owl, basking in the attention, felt proud of herself. She had stirred the hearts of the creatures, made them listen, made them talk. She had power. But what the owl did not realize was that her words had consequences. The sun, deeply insulted, made a silent decision. He would not let this insult go unpunished. The night passed uneventfully, but when dawn arrived, something strange happened, something no creature had ever witnessed before. The first light of morning touched the treetops, spilling golden warmth across the land. The birds chirped, the animals stirred, but one thing was amiss. The owl, still nestled in her tree, felt a strange chill. She blinked, stretched her wings, and prepared to bask in the morning sun as she always did. But as soon as she stepped into the light, she felt a searing pain. The warmth she had once loved now burned her feathers, sending her retreating into the shadows with a startled cry. Confused and frightened, she tried again, hopping onto a lower branch where the sun's rays streamed through the leaves. Again, the heat singed her wings, and she had to flee back into the cool, dark safety of her nest. Something was wrong. The other birds fluttered around freely, soaking in the golden light. The land basked in warmth, yet she alone could not bear it. Panic gripped her heart. She did not yet realize it, but the sun had made his choice. The owl, once a carefree and gossiping bird of the daylight, would soon learn the weight of her words. And this was only the beginning. The owl remained in her tree, her heart pounding as she tried to make sense of what was happening. The world outside shimmered under the golden light of the sun, but she alone was trapped in shadow, unable to feel its warmth without pain. Panic crept into her chest like a creeping vine, winding its way around her thoughts. She watched as the other birds flitted through the branches, their feathers glowing under the morning rays. The sparrows chirped, the doves cooed, and even the hawks soared through the sky, embracing the sunlight. None of them flinched. None of them burned. Only she, the owl, felt the sting of the sun's fury. "What is happening to me?" she whispered to herself, tucking her wings close to her body. "Why does the sun shun me?" For the first time in her life, the owl was silent. Her mind raced with worry, replaying the events of the previous day. Had she truly angered the sun? Had her words she had spoken so lightly without care, been enough to bring such a punishment upon her? She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. No, it could not be. It had to be a mistake. Perhaps the sun was testing her, playing a trick, and soon he would forgive her. Yes, that must be it. She only needed to wait. But as the day stretched on, the truth became undeniable. The sun's golden glow remained welcoming to all except her. She tried again and again to step into its warmth, only to be met with the same searing pain. Each time she retreated, forced back into the darkness of her tree. She could only watch as life went on without her. Desperate, she turned to the other animals. She had spent her days gossiping with them, sharing stories and secrets. Surely they would help her. She first sought out the wise chameleon, finding him resting on a sunlit branch, his scales shifting to match the golden light. "Chameleon," she called from the shadows. "Something terrible has happened to me. The sun burns me whenever I try to step into his light. What should I do?" The chameleon, who had always been wary of her loose tongue, narrowed his eyes. "Perhaps you should ask yourself why the sun has turned against you," he said. "You speak so many words, owl, but do you ever stop to consider them?" The owl bristled. "I only speak what is interesting. Stories keep life exciting." The chameleon sighed. "But not all stories are true, and not all words are harmless." The owl felt frustration rise within her. She had not come for a lecture, she had come for help. Huffing, she left the chameleon behind and sought out the great elephant, known for his wisdom and long memory. "Elephant," she pleaded, staying just outside the reach of the sunbeams filtering through the trees. "I am cursed. The sun burns me. What must I do to earn his forgiveness?" The elephant peered at her with kind but knowing eyes. "Owl, you have always been quick to speak, but have you ever been quick to listen? The sun has heard your words, and he is displeased. Perhaps it is not forgiveness you need, but understanding." The owl ruffled her feathers in frustration. She did not like these riddles, these lessons. She wanted an answer, a solution, a way to return to the life she had known. She flew from animal to animal, seeking someone who would tell her what she wanted to hear. But every answer was the same. She had been careless with her words, and now she was paying the price. As the sun began to lower in the sky, its golden light turning a deep fiery orange, the owl returned to her tree, exhausted and disheartened. For the first time in her life, she had no one to talk to, no one to listen to her tales. The day slipped away, and then something strange happened. As the last light of the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the world darkened. The sky turned deep blue, and a silver glow spread across the land. The moon had risen. For the first time since her punishment, the owl stepped out from her hiding place. The cool, gentle light of the moon wrapped around her, and to her surprise, it did not burn. It did not shun her. Instead, it welcomed her, bathing her in its soft glow. Tentatively, she spread her wings and flew into the night sky. It was different from the bright, golden world she had known, but it was beautiful in its own way. The stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, and the world below was quiet, peaceful. She landed on a branch and let out a small sigh. She could not bask in the sun as she once had, but she had found another way to exist. As she gazed at the moon, she wondered if the sun would ever forgive her, if she would ever again feel his warm embrace. But for now, she had learned a valuable lesson. Words had power, and carelessness came with consequences. She would have to find a new way to live, a new purpose. And for the first time in her life, she vowed to think before she spoke. But deep in her heart, she feared that this exile to the night was only the beginning of her punishment, and that the sun had more yet to teach her. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The owl, once the most talkative and vibrant creature of the day, was now a shadow of her former self. She had been banished from the warmth of the sun, cursed to dwell in the cold embrace of darkness. No longer did she flutter from branch to branch, spreading stories with an eager glint in her eye. Now she sat in silence, perched in the hollows of ancient trees, waiting for the cover of night. The world moved on without her. The other birds, once captivated by her endless chatter, barely noticed her absence. The animals who had once been enthralled by her tales found new things to discuss. Life continued, and the owl was left behind. At first, she fought against her curse. She attempted to stand in the sunlight, believing that if she was strong enough, she could withstand its harsh sting. But each time, the searing pain forced her back into the darkness. She tried to appeal to the wise ones of the land, the tortoise, the elephant, and even the cunning fox, but none had the power to undo what had been done. Desperation consumed her. If she could not return to the light, perhaps she could find a way to earn the sun's forgiveness. Perhaps if she humbled herself, he would allow her to bask in his golden glow once more. So, one fateful evening, just as the sky turned from crimson to deep indigo, the owl took flight. She soared above the treetops, her wings cutting through the cool air, until she reached the highest peak where she could whisper directly to the heavens. "O great and mighty sun," she called, her voice trembling. "I have wronged you. I spoke when I should have been silent, and I spread lies when I should have honored the truth. I was foolish, vain, and careless. I see that now." The wind carried her words far and wide, and the stars shimmered in silent witness. But the sun, who had long since retreated beyond the horizon, did not answer. Night after night, the owl returned to the highest peak, calling out in hopes of receiving a response. "Please, sun, have mercy. I have learned my lesson. I will never gossip again, never twist the truth for my own gain. Let me return to the warmth of your light." Yet the sun remained silent. Then one night, as the owl perched on the peak, weary from her pleas, a deep voice rumbled from the heavens. It was not the sun, but the moon who finally spoke. "Owl," the moon said, his silver glow casting long shadows over the land. "The sun has heard your cries, but he is unmoved. The words we speak have power, and you misused yours. Your punishment was not given in haste, nor will it be lifted easily. You must live with the consequences of your choices." The owl's heart sank. "Then am I doomed to live in darkness forever?" she whispered, her voice hollow. The moon was silent for a long moment before he finally answered. "Not all darkness is a curse, little one. You have been given the night, a time when few roam, when the world is hushed. Use this time wisely. Learn from your past. And though the sun will never welcome you as before, I will be here to watch over you." Tears welled in the owl's large eyes, but she nodded. She understood now. There were no words left to argue, no more tales to spin. She had once wielded the power of words carelessly, but now she would use her silence as her strength. And so, from that day forward, the owl became a creature of the night. She no longer gossiped, no longer meddled in the affairs of others. She learned to listen, to observe, and to value the truth above all else. Her feathers, once bright and dazzling, faded into the muted tones of twilight. Her voice, once loud and eager, grew solemn and wise. But though she had changed, the world never forgot the lesson she had taught. The other creatures, having seen her fate, grew wary of careless words. They learned to cherish truth and to respect the power of their speech. And as for the owl, she lived beneath the moon's gentle glow, watching over the sleeping world with solemn, knowing eyes. She embraced the darkness not as a prison, but as a gift, a reminder that even in the absence of light, wisdom could still shine.